Welcome to Reconciliation Road. I am your host, Dan George. I'm a member of the Gilseyhu Clan, the Big Frog Clan of the Wet'suwet'en people, and the president and CEO of Four Directions Management Services. Here on Reconciliation Road, we seek to build bridges of better understanding with the hopes of creating a markedly different future for our children and grandchildren than the often painful memories of our elders. Daily, I am privileged to work with amazing leaders all across British Columbia and Canada who are advancing the positions of Indigenous peoples in all kinds of ways. As a professional facilitator who works to create safe, respectful spaces for rich and meaningful dialogue to occur, I specialize in bringing disparate groups of people together to discuss pressing matters, essentially helping apples talk to oranges. I am starting this podcast so that I can share these conversations with everyone. Reconciliation Road is a journey towards a greater understanding for reconciling the competing values and viewpoints of Indigenous peoples, industry, and the Crown. With each episode, I aim to lead you through conversations with game changers, inspiring leaders, and movers and shakers in my effort to strengthen our most valuable and transformational relationships in this country, those with Indigenous peoples. Many people became familiar with the term reconciliation because of the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. The commission was formed as part of the largest class action settlement in Canadian history when residential school survivors sued the Canadian federal government for harms caused by residential schools. The commission was established with the purpose of documenting the history and lasting impacts of residential schools on Indigenous children, their families, and their communities. In June 2015, the TRC released an executive summary of its findings, along with 94 calls to action regarding reconciliation between settlers and Indigenous peoples. More than 150,000 First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children are forced to attend these schools, which were established with the intention of destroying Indigenous culture by assimilating Indigenous children into European Christian culture. The commission officially concluded that the residential school system amounted to an attempt at cultural genocide. As acknowledged by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, harms committed against Indigenous peoples were not limited to residential schools, but involved a long history of settler colonialism, including the displacement of Indigenous peoples from their traditional territories, theft of resources, violence, and outlawing of traditional cultural and spiritual practices. These are not issues of the past. Indigenous peoples continue to face inequality and prejudice, and Canadian institutions and practices continue to exclude and marginalize Indigenous peoples. The archaic Indian Act, for example, still dominates much of our daily lives. In the context of relationships between Indigenous peoples and settler peoples in Canada, reconciliation describes a process of coming to terms with past harms and addressing contemporary injustices. It also means respecting Indigenous sovereignty and building equal and reciprocal relationships between Indigenous peoples and settler peoples. Good people, reconciliation is a journey, not a destination. The road to reconciliation is a long and winding one with many stops along the way. When we come together, great things happen. Thank you for joining me on this journey.